he's got some wild contraptions. Didn't even know he did that.
It's just hard to find people who have got that kind of clarity, you know? Like there's a lot of people building motorcycles now. There are fucking thousands of people building motorcycles. And whilst I think that that is really, really good, and the more motorcycles there are in the world, the better, and you know, all that, and the more people on bikes, the better. Getting into that top sort of real, you know, the top builders in the world is quite, you know, it's quite hard to get there.
I don't understand how he has so much time. Like, the amount of things that he does constantly, like, I don't know how he does it, to be honest. Yeah, the energy, I don't know, sometimes when I try to kick my two-stroke, I get a bit tired and I just have a break and try again the next day. But I don't think Nigel will do something like that.
Oh yeah, once it gets, ooh, there it is, starting to sing. I guess when I first started this project, I've always been drawn to bikes obviously, but also the simplicity that they offer. They're not just a tool for transport, they can be a real artistic piece. And I think choppers really kind of hark back to the days where, you know, things were pretty simple. There was surplus war supplies and people just got what they could and built something and traveled on it. And to take, I guess, a 2019 model engine and really kind of shift the styling back almost 50 years, it was something that I wasn't sure how it was going to work out, but I had drawn heaps of inspiration and thought of a whole bunch of ideas that I could kind of put in to make this happen. And it's always difficult when you're building something and you haven't seen it built before. It's kind of leaves you with the question, is it possible or not? And over the last year at least, it's been a real mission to try and find out how to make it all work.
Getting happy with that. Fucking spot on, eh?
He's got an amazing, I don't know if it comes from doing all that sort of structural work that he does on cars and stuff. Just lines with frame components and things like that are always just exactly where they sort of should be. They're not wrong functionally, they're not wrong aesthetically. They're kind of, everything kind of just sits nice and clean. And then he's just an amazing welder and all the rest of that as well. So it's kind of like, yeah, he's definitely got that sort of perfect. Wish I did.
Looks good. Being a BMW, it's very different to the way a chopper is usually built. The flat twin offers a lot of freedom because it's literally a lot smaller motor, but it actually punches out the sides a lot more. So the real difficulty was in trying to harness the shape of a chopper, which is usually built around a V-twin Harley-Davidson motor, and then shift that into something that looks at home with a BMW motor in it. So I guess the real issue for me, or the real hard thing, was trying to get the stance and the look and the way that the frame really, I guess, framed the motor, and then making it all look like it was all meant to be there. So yeah, starting with that motor and then sort of stringlining everything out on the jig and trying to get all of the lines correct was probably the hardest part of seeing this bike really evolve from just an engine and two wheels.
And the biggest thing that got me was a lot of people, they'll power plant a newer engine into a frame, but no one goes back 60 years and takes off the electronic ignition and puts magnetos on. I thought that was pretty tricky. Because like I said, it's not just welding stuff together, he's got to learn exactly where that thing needs to fire and to get it to run good. So sounds like a headache to me, but good luck.
There'll be some engineers pulling their hair out in Germany for sure.
And do you think it will work?
Oh, I've no doubt. They all work for a certain amount of time. Like,
And the DeWalt just
Boom!
I pulled all the electronics off and I just said to myself, I'm going to work out how to make it run part the way through the build, and didn't worry about it too much at that point, and then started sort of working out how to do it. Now I've got some early motorcycles from the 1950s, and these are all fired by a magneto, and this is a unit that basically supplies, it's almost a box of magic. You turn it and it gives you spark. So you don't need a battery, you don't need anything, and this was really the ethos behind the build, to simplify everything. So really the only difference between this and a magneto from a bike in the 1950s is just the way that the cam profile matches the BMW's firing order. And it was up to me to mount it on the motor and make it spin at the same rotation as a crankshaft. So I don't think it's timed right. Once I figure out how that's going to work.
is it American Magneto? American? No, that'll win some hearts. That'd be good, yeah. Magneto still runs points. But you know, look, points is good. That runs sometimes. That thing doesn't have a very strong spark. It seems to stall on me all the time. But yeah, points are sick.
The thing that I really like about people doing stuff that well is that it's inspiring. So you see someone that's like Nigel, who can just approach things so methodically that you can't help but be inspired. I mean, I get inspired by that. But my shed does not look like his shed. There's shit everywhere. Even though Brad is constantly trying to get me to tidy stuff and put stuff away. Yeah, that's not in my kind of makeup to be like that. But he's yeah, it goes from everything that he does all the way through just the way the van looks, the way, you know, the bikes look, the way he looks, the way, you know, everything kind of just is there for a purpose, which is, I think, beautiful. It's good.
Does it sound like you imagined it would sound?
Yeah, weirdly. But I was kind of expecting it to be like the red bike's super loud. But because all of that comes into one pipe, I was expecting this to kind of be like boom, 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 which it sort of is once it dies right down. Maybe we could turn the idle down till it gets a heartbeat. Why I don't want to wipe them now, because they're already started to go gold.
So fucking cool, isn't it? I can't believe how well it runs.
I know, for that timing job, just
so
yeah,
fucking-
20 mil,
so you guys.
20 mil back.
Here's a bike I've just made. No one's ever done it before, and it's got one of these things that I've made 17 of those, and
You know, the stance of the bike and the way that it sits and the way that the motor is really, you know, so in your face from that front and rear view. What I wanted to do was accentuate that by bringing the whole bike and just sort of slimming it all down and making sure that, you know, when you're looking at someone on this bike riding towards you, it's a completely foreign experience, because you've got your little hands up here and you're hanging on, and this big motor's just hanging out beside your knees, and it just looks so foreign in terms of what people are used to in the chopper community. and I really tried to accentuate that with that front wheel, with the carbon spring that sits inside that girder fork. It's all really slimmed down, and there's so many little aspects of that that I've never seen incorporated into a bike before that I wanted to, and these are some of the innovative ideas that I've sort of put into this bike, and hopefully kids in 50 years are building choppers to hark back to the year 2020 when the great coronavirus struck, and they come out with a wild BMW with a girder front end with a carbon fibre spring. That'd be pretty cool to see. When you build a chopper, you're bringing all of that mechanical feeling back into the bike. The brakes don't quite work well. You've got a heel shifted setup here, so your hand shifting the gearbox and then using the clutch with your foot. So it's a really difficult thing to ride, and you've got a lot of steering rake and only small handlebars. And all of those quirks are something that I really enjoy experiencing for the first time. So to kind of just spend time with the bike and get it, you know, rumbling beneath me and understanding how it feels and feeling all of those things that I engineered into the chassis. I'm really looking forward to that day. It hasn't come yet, but yeah, once we're out of lockdown, I think it's going to be a pretty good feeling.